It's the season of giving and doing good, right? Then let me be completely honest. I've tried pretty much every Better Health meal kit you can think of, and none have ever really worked for me. That is until I partnered with Factor. Don't bust your belt this bustling holiday season. Eat well for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with chef-prepared, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door with Factor. They're dietitian approved, meaning the diet doesn't have to take a break while Santa and those usually irresistible Christmas cookies roll into town. Factor is America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. Meal options include Calorie Smart, Vegan and Veggie, and Protein Plus. So give Factor a try today and enjoy eating well without the hassle. Ready in 2 minutes, no prep, no mess. The website is factormeals.com/TOC50, Talk of Champions 50, TOC50. And make sure to use code TOC50 to get 50% off your first order. That's code TOC50 at factormeals.com/TOC50 to get 50% off. Keep Christmas and dinner time merry with Factor, a proud sponsor of the Talk of Champions podcast network.
A new year has arrived. What's your resolution for 2024? How about making sure the roof over your head is well taken care of? Riverland Roofing is here for all your roofing needs. Whether it's an inspection, a new roof, or a maintenance program, Riverland Roofing has you covered, home or business, to give you peace of mind in the new year. As a GAF Master Elite contractor, they can offer warranties that last a lifetime. Riverland Roofing is licensed and insured to service Mississippi and its surrounding states. So give Riverland Roofing a call today and make sure you and yours are protected all year round. Call Riverland Roofing at 662-644-4297. That's 662-644-4297. Visit them online at riverlandroofing.com, riverlandroofing.com. It's Riverland Roofing for all of your roofing needs, a proud sponsor of the Talk of Champions podcast network. Welcome into an all-new edition of the Flagship on this, the Talk of Champions podcast network. It's January 9th, 2024. It's a new year. A new year. It's no longer 2023. It's 2024. In the opening months of 2024, even though it doesn't seem right, like pitchers and catchers should be reporting, yes. I've always been used to that. But Ole Miss baseball starts next month. Next month, Hawaii. I was going to go, not going to be able to get there, but Clem didn't have to travel far to come back on this podcast. It's Mike Clement, Ole Miss baseball hitting coach. Hey, buddy, what's up?
How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. What's your New Year's resolution? What are you doing?
Oh, man, win a few more games.
It's a good one.
I ran a marathon in December, so check that box.
That's great. What'd you run, the St. Jude?
No, I was going to run St. Jude. Had a wedding that weekend, so the next weekend, December 10th, I ran in Huntsville, Alabama.
I just got back from Huntsville. I went through Huntsville to go to Knoxville. I had not been there, or at least didn't have any remembrance of being there. And I'm not going to lie to you, I kind of loved Huntsville and got to educate my buddy who rode with me on the Huntsville Trash Pandas, the Rocket City Trash Pandas, which has one of the dopest minor league names in merchandise ever. And I also tried to get my daughter to name their softball team that. It didn't stick. We end up calling ourselves the Angels, Clem. But I just bring that up because it's baseball. It's baseball season. Like everywhere you turn, it reminds me of baseball. And that's why I texted Clem last night. I said, hey, man, it's time. It's time to get back on and do this thing. Where are things right now? What are y'all doing?
So our guys, most of our players came back and take a winter intercession class. So I don't think classes officially start in the spring semester till like the 22nd or something like that. As you know, the 22nd is really close to opening day. So we encourage our players to take a winter intercession class. This year started January 2nd, finishes up this Saturday. So they're all here. We can't do anything with them from a coaching standpoint till the 15th. But they can be in the weight room working with our strength coach. They can use the facility, all of those things. So all of our guys are back, and they're in Oxford and working out, doing all those things. And then Monday we get started with skill instruction, and then official practice starts the 26th. So you get to start. That's a universal start date, 3 weeks before opening day.
3 weeks before opening day. So between now and then, what are you going to be doing to keep yourself busy, right? I mean, because you can't work with them directly. So
Right.
What's the next 3 weeks for you? And as you evaluate your roster, what's kind of the plan for once that does open up in 3 weeks to hit the ground running from an offensive standpoint?
Yeah, it's like between now and then, it's a lot of planning stuff, making sure guys have, what they need, all of those things. But starting Monday, I mean, it's a time restriction on how much we can be with them between then and the first official start day. But we're practicing, right? Like it's a different version of practice and coming out in groups and all of that. But from a coaching and a mindset standpoint, we get it kicked up on Monday, and man, it's head down and go. We got a couple camps in between then. It's clinic season, so I have to go speak at a coaches convention. But other than that, it's we go starting Monday, and good to get guys back, because it's an odd dynamic. You're with them all fall, and you get a good feel. And you and I have talked many times throughout the fall, and then finals happens, and I feel you feel like you haven't seen them for a long time, and then you get a little bit of anxiety as the coach, because you look and we're flying out to Hawaii in a month, and I feel like I haven't seen them in a month. So, it's a crash course and all of that starting on Monday.
When you went into last year, were there any like tells or signs that maybe something wasn't complete? And that's I know it sounds silly and dumb, but I'm just curious that when you go into this year, you always feel good about your roster going into the year. This is the time of the year, January, where you're barreling towards the season, and you feel good. I mean, even last year you probably felt good, but when you review it and you're trying to make sure you avoid that again, right? Where are you right now in terms of the personnel, how it looks, where it's supposed to be? Because you do have proof of concept, right? I mean, you do have a national championship on the ledger, so y'all know what it's supposed to look like, right? Does it look like what it's supposed to look like?
Yeah, no question. Two parts. Number one, in retrospect, I suppose there's a couple things after the way it panned out last year, but really, and this sounds like a cop out, and I don't mean it to be that, is we were healthy at this time last year, with the exception of Mallets, who went down in the fall, which was a big loss. Elliott was good until he wasn't. And then, I think that has a lot of residual effects all the way through the team. But as far as looking forward, everyone's healthy. We feel good with where we're at. We feel like some of those arms really made a step forward. And, I think we're in a pretty good spot. A lot of new guys, obviously. But like we've talked about before, it's an interesting dynamic. They are new to our program, but with what the portal is and all of that, we have some experience, a lot of college at bats under our belt. So I do feel good about it. And in our league, you never know until the bullets start flying. And you get even more specific than that. You never really know until SEC play starts, just because our league is so good top to bottom. Even a year ago, even after Elliott went down, we were able to mask that up until SEC play, where we won a bunch of games and had some big wins. Go up to Minnesota and sweep that thing, and win a series with Maryland, who's a top 25 team. And, I think some of that was masked, because then you get into SEC play and you get punched in the mouth, and we can just never get our head above water from that standpoint. So, we've definitely put an emphasis on some detailed type stuff and been on it, from that standpoint, because you want to get the dirty taste of losing out of your mouth. That's for sure. So we've tried to ratchet that stuff up, and are excited to get going. But we like our roster. We like our club, I guess, is the long answer to the short question.
It's the depth of options, I guess, that I'm most curious about, because when things go wrong, as they inevitably do, it could be injuries, it could be any number of things. The depth of options are what going to determine whether you can be in it for the long haul, right? And last year, when you started going deep into the cupboard, even when it was for maybe to make up for lack of production, or to compensate for some guy that maybe wasn't performing to the level you thought he should be performing, you just didn't have that. I feel like this group does. Is that fair? I mean,
Yeah,
the portal re-solidified, but you got some upside guys too. Like, if one guy that you're maybe ticketing right now for a corner outfield, if he comes out of the gate slow, well, you got some other guys like a Judd Uttermark, for example, that have some upside that you just didn't have last year. Is that fair?
No question. I think that is fair. Looking at it from a position player standpoint, just we're certainly going to have some options. I think we have depth at every position, where if guys, don't produce like we expect them to, or injuries happen from an offensive standpoint, I do think that there are pieces to step in, and that's where not only was the portal big, but we have a good recruiting class, and we feel like there's some depth there. And furthermore, I don't think we're outside of Smithwick behind the plate. I don't think we're necessarily counting on complete fresh guys. Now, I think Braden Randall's a huge piece of what we're doing and all those things, but like you talked about, there is depth to mix and match. And the nice thing about a new team with a lot of new players is we're going to make sure those guys get some experience early on. And I think that's kind of Mike's MO from his time here anyway, is to mix and match before SEC play. But when you have an older group of offensive players that has produced in the past, you're going to give them more rope, right? Like, you're going to give those guys more rope to fail. Whereas I think when it's a newer group, you're going to mix and match, and you're going to see what works. And I think that, over the long haul is a good thing, because you get guys experience and at bats, and you can, there's more competition that goes into that. So I think those are all good things.
Yeah, because I don't think it's, with Campbell Smithwick, for example, starting at catcher as a true freshman, it's not one of those things where Gray, Kessinger, and Thomas, they come in and struggle, but they learn. He doesn't have to be good offensively yet. Like, he doesn't have to be what he's going to be eventually, because there are Trayson Hugheses and just choose your fighter, Andrew Fisher. Like, there are a number of guys that you're going to be counting on and leaning on to carry that lineup to where he can just settle into the bottom somewhere and figure it out, right?
No, you're exactly right. It's funny. Gray was sitting in my office last week, and we talked about that exactly. We were talking about our team, and obviously he's super invested. He lives in Oxford in the off season and loves Ole Miss, and has for his entire life. And so he was talking about our roster, kind of asking me similar questions what you were. And I think the difference with a guy like Smithwick, let's say, and with Gray is, I think Gray would have had a fine freshman year, but we had 4 other guys in his class playing every day, all struggling at the same time, and didn't have options to replace them. And so I think Smithwick falls more into the role of Keenan the next year after Gray, or Kevin Graham the following year after that. The one freshman that you stick in there and can hit towards, middle bottom of the order. And those guys are set up for more success their freshman year because of what's around them. The year that Gray had, he looked around and it was all guys his age, Now, that really helped us in 2018. We had one of the best offenses I've ever coached, because those guys went through the struggle, because those guys had so many at-bats under their belt. But certainly you would much rather have it the other way and have success sustained all the way through, as opposed to failing and taking a step backwards to take a couple steps forward.
Well, the thing about this year is, I think y'all sense it too, like how bad it was last year. I've said this before, it's funny because had y'all just like gotten in as a 3 seed somewhere, no one would have batted an eye. But because it was so bad, right, and the results were so awful, y'all feel. Y'all are a year removed from winning the national championship, a little over a year from winning the national championship, but you can feel like Ole Miss fans, yeah, we want another one here. You know what I mean? Like, it's the next. What have you done for me lately? And even though last year was a disaster, I think y'all sense it too. The urgency y'all went into the offseason with, y'all were like, man, this is not one of those things where, we're gonna have some patience with some guys and let them come along. Y'all feel the pressure to just win again. You know what I mean? That's if anyone took last year harder than anybody else, it's y'all, because y'all sure as shit didn't see that coming.
No doubt, and I think that's healthy. I think the sense of urgency and no one puts more pressure on that than what we do. And so to have that, I don't think is all a bad thing, because, when you feel that, you're typically going to go one of 2 ways. You're going to cave to it, which you just don't last as long as Mike has, or we have in this league, doing that, right? Like, those guys get chewed up and spit out, and they're coaching somewhere else or out of coaching very, very quickly. But I think living with that sense of urgency, and I don't know, people are scared to say it this way, but that fear of failure. I think that's a good thing. I really do. I think it makes you work in a different way. I think it makes you recruit in a different way. I think it makes you coach on the field in a different way with some urgency. And I don't think that's all a bad thing. And sure, I don't want to lose a bunch of games like we did a year ago to have to get to that point. But the reality of it is we did win a national championship and no one can ever take that away. And last year we were 6-24 in the league, and that's never going away either. And so, I think that sense of urgency, and that pit in your stomach of losing, I think that's okay. And I think you can use that to be better. And hopefully we've done that. We'll see when the bullets start flying here in a month.
The College Corner is headed to Oxford. Stop by their new location in the Oxford Commons off Sisk Avenue. They'll have 4,000 square feet of Rebel gear ready for your trip to the Grove. On your next trip to Oxford, stop by the College Corner or our other great locations in Ridgeland and Flowood. Hats, shirts, polos, pullovers, sweats, t-shirts. College Corner has it all. And as always, you can visit us online at collegecornerstore.com. That's collegecornerstore.com. The College Corner, where your game day apparel meets.
The car buying process can be a lot. I know, I've been there. You just want to get in and out with a new car and the best deal. Simple. Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Oxford keeps it simple. They're going to take care of you, get you in and out with your new vehicle with a great deal. Their inventory right now is priced to sell, and what separates Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Oxford from any and all competitors is they aim to address each of your needs with the utmost respect, care, and attention to detail. Contact them today at 662-234-8000. That's 662-234-8000. Stop by and see them in person at 2201 East University Avenue in Oxford. That's Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram of Oxford to find your next perfect car, truck, or Jeep. Allen Samuels, let's be friends.
Introducing the new and improved BNA Bank mobile app. From setting transaction alerts and tracking your spending habits to managing travel plans and turning off a lost or stolen debit card, you can take care of all of it in the new BNA mobile app. At BNA Bank, we know that life moves pretty fast, and we have the mobile technology to keep up with your life on the go. BNA Bank. Local, invested, modern banking.
Are you looking at cutting your health insurance premiums by as much as 20 to 30%? Are you aging into Medicare and need help finding a Medicare supplement plan? Call Drew Moak of USA Benefits Group at 601-953-8449. Drew is an Ole Miss grad located in Mississippi and licensed in 7 states. He works with the nation's second largest health insurance brokerage with access to 35 different carriers, and he can help you with any of your health insurance needs. From regular health plans to life insurance to dental and vision and even Medicare, he has it all covered. Now more than ever, it is critical to have a health insurance agent who is local and accessible. So call Drew Moak at 601-953-8449 and get your free quote today.
My question is, what is the formula? Like when y'all get into this thing, what are the early benchmarks you feel like this team needs to hit? Because early season, like you said, what y'all are going to be in February and March is not what you're going to be in April and May. Right. There's going to be some evolutions, but what do you want to see early from this team?
Well, I think we really get tested for sure 2 of the first 3 weeks of the season. Obviously traveling as far as we're traveling and playing in Hawaii as a veteran team have started to look into them a little bit. They have some left-handed pitching, which we're going to have left-handed hitters in our lineup. So I think that's a good challenge for us. They have a bunch of like 5th-year guys out there. And so I think they were 18-12 in their league last year. So I think that in itself, both the travel and their talent, I think that'll be a good test to open things up. And then the University of Iowa, we play in the 3rd weekend, and they have their best team they've ever had. They may have one of the best pitching staffs in the country. Their Friday guy throws like 102 miles an hour, supposed to be a top 10 pick in the draft. Their Saturday guy, I think, may have been the Big Ten pitcher of the year last year. So, like, it's the best team they've ever had. So we get challenged early, and I think that's good. Whenever we play a tough schedule this time of year, I'm like, why don't we schedule like that? We got 10 weeks of SEC play. But then once you go through those weekends,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, man, I'm glad we had those, because then South Carolina, and then we go to Knoxville, and then it starts coming. And you're always happy that you had those challenging early season things. But I think more specifically, to answer your question, some of the things that we'll look at is depth on the mound, right? Like if we can see, because we play 4 games out in Hawaii and then come back and have a midweek on Wednesday. So you're playing 5 games that first week. What does the pitching look like? Is there depth enough? I think you see that early on, like, whoa, those arms look pretty good. There's some real pieces there. I think that's a big benchmark that, frankly, we weren't great with depth on the mound a year ago. Some of that because of injury, some of that, because of failure or whatever it was. I think that's big. I think seeing what Smithwick looks like behind the plate, some of those really important defensive positions are big. And we feel really good about the offense, but what does it look like? Is it productive? Is it, can we drive in runs? Is it extra base hits? And what does the OPS look like? All those types of things. But I think you can really gain some things. Now, I don't think you look necessarily at where do you stack up compared to the league in non-conference, because everybody's schedule is so different.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we will be able to see some of those things where we weren't very good a year ago, what they look like throughout the first 3 weeks, because I think we see pretty decent competition.
You've said it countless times when you've been on this podcast. I know this. I acknowledge it. I'm going to preface what I'm about to ask you with it. You do not have the Sharpie in your hand. You have said that for 8 years on this friggin' podcast. You don't have the Sharpie. Okay. But if you were making out a lineup today, I ask you literally every January for like the last 5 years. I've gone, Clem, if you had to make it out today, who's leading off? Who's batting in the most important position in the lineup? Number 2, not 3. Who the power guy? Like, how would you fill it out right now? Who are your guys? That's what makes these things fun, man. Like, I want to know, if you had a game this afternoon against Arkansas Pine Bluff, who is Arkansas Pine Bluff going to get blitzed by this afternoon?
Yeah.
Who's setting the table?
Luke Hill is going to be 1 or 2.
Right.
I think I'd probably put him 1. And not that he's going to go out and steal a bunch of bases or whatever, but it is real bat to ball skills. He's not going to punch out. He is going to hit double-digit home runs. He's a really, really advanced offensive player.
Is he a major league player right now?
He may have a little bit to go defensively. I don't know if he's a big league shortstop yet.
Okay.
He's really good there, but man,
positionally, that's where he's got to show it, for the next couple years.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's a really good offensive player. Just really advanced offensively. So he's 1 or 2.
Okay.
Jackson Ross has to be in there too. And so Ross,
2, Clem.
Yeah. Ross, again, if those 2 guys are back to back in our lineup, they're for sure in the top three guys, I think, by anybody's lineup, 3 or 4 guys. The unique thing about those guys, and you and I have talked about it a ton, is its production and its power, and it's not going to be a gross amount of strikeouts. And so guys that can do that at the college level, well, any level, but at the college level, are super unique and are stars, right? Like, shoot, you're a star if you can hit 20 home runs and strike out 85 times. But
I thought you were about to call me a star about something. I was about to go, oh my God, I needed that today, Clem. But no,
I wasn't. But yeah, it's going to be a tough lineup to get through, because you got Fisher in there somewhere, who probably will swing and miss a little more, but he is going to hit with power. And then you go right down the list. It's going to be a tough lineup to get through for sure.
Who's the first returning player in the lineup? Where do they hit? I'm trying to think of the returning players in the lineup.
Yeah. So returning guys, Groff is going to play center field.
I think 5th or 6th probably.
Yeah. And
put him at 9th, man. Turn that thing over again.
I would guess Leger is probably down there.
Okay.
8, 9 to turn the thing over.
Where's he playing? 2nd, 3rd, left?
I would say 2nd or left.
Okay.
I would have said, I probably did say, if you go back and look at podcasts early in the fall, that he would be playing second base. Braden Randall
That's where I got it from.
Has been so good, and Legier's so versatile. So Randall can really, really defend, and so he has forced his way into the mix, into the picture. So
he's Peyton Chatagnier it, isn't he?
What's that?
He's Peyton Chatagnier it, isn't he? Where he came in, you didn't expect it necessarily, and that happens. That's a good thing. We're talking about
and plays with an edge. Our fans are gonna love him. He's like 5'9", and he is scared of exactly nothing. Awesome. So the other returning guys, in answer to your question, that are in the mix: John Kramer, I think DH left field, Judd Utermark. Those would be the 4 returning guys. Reagan Burford had a really good fall too. So those would be the returning guys that would have a chance to be in the mix. But direct answer to your question, the first guy in the lineup of a returning player, I guess, would be Groff. And he would have a chance to lead off too. Like, if we want to put Hill in the 2, it could go Groff Hill for sure.
I don't know, man. When you said Hill and Jackson Ross back to back at 1 and 2, speaking my language, man. Like that's. We just got to make sure Mike is all on board with like the complete new age way of constructing the lineup. Which, if I were to say it, he'd go, Ben, you're dumb as shit. But if you were to say it, he'd go, oh, well, maybe,
Oh, he called me dumb too. You never know.
I thought you were going to say, oh, Ben, he values your opinion. No, that's not true. All right, so last thing, I'm going to let you go and get out of here. I'm driving to Knoxville with a buddy of mine, and he reminded me of something. Because he's gone with me on road trips before. He said, I was supposed to be holding the camera because Clem promised you that if they won a national championship, he would throw you BP so that you could embarrass yourself. And he was just excited, not because Clem hasn't done it yet. He was excited because he knows that I will not make contact, that I'm going to be embarrassingly terrible. And he wants to see me get embarrassed in front of God and everybody. So my question is, what do we do?
When this comes up, and it comes up, since June of 22, it's come up. And we did, and people can go back and listen, and I get reminded of it as well. Good. I feel like when this gets brought up, the format of this podcast, it gets put on me.
It is.
What people don't realize is now with the new format and with Ben's responsibilities and how this works, Ben doesn't leave his house. So like,
hold up now.
When Ben went to Knoxville, it was the first time he had been out of the house since he went to Athens earlier in the fall.
That's not true.
Just so everyone realizes, those are the last 2 times he's been out. So he cannot come to any baseball games because the results in Athens in whatever that was, October, and then last week in Knoxville weren't great for the Rebs, and so he's not allowed to come to baseball games. But anyway, he doesn't leave his house, and so when he does and wants to hit, he is welcome. Right. He knows where I'm at. He knows my cell phone number, and I would love to embarrass him. Like, this is easy for me. I throw batting practice every day, and so
the only person it's going to be hard for is me. Like, I'm going to get embarrassed, and I want to be like, I want to say, like, what should be the goal for me? To make contact, any contact. I want to know if I should, like, because I want to do a walk off and celebrate. So
it's. I mean, in my mind's eye, you will make contact. It's going to be a gross swing, super unathletic, a bunch of balls that make contact and then hit the ground, I don't know, 8 to 10 inches in front of your left foot.
Well, I'm pissed because you had Gray in your office. Gray could have been like standing there encouraging me, giving me pointers on how to make contact in the video. Well, I could have come over yesterday.
He's one of the greatest human beings in the world, so he would have been super supportive, I'm sure.
He would have.
And I would have rolled my eyes while he was being supportive and say, Grace, stop. You don't
he's like, Ben, no, you just got to keep your back show. You're doing great. You're doing great. And then Clem's like, Dad, you're terrible. Look at you, fat idiot. But,
Right.
Fine.
Right. One more thing, since this thing has gone off the rails. Don't ask me why, but last week, our players aren't back yet. I don't remember what night it was. I'm sitting at the house and I'm watching, don't ask me why. I'm watching Purdue against Illinois basketball. 2 top 10 teams.
Awesome. Good for you.
What do they call it when someone looks exactly like
doppelganger
or little brother plays basketball at Illinois.
Okay.
His name is Luke Good. People need to go look it up. It's Goode.
Did you Google this dude just because he looked like me?
I was watching the game and he's shooting free throws. I should have texted you. I was like, I had to wait. I waited until the name popped up to make sure he didn't have your last name.
Hilarious. Charlie Pollock, the
he's way more athletic than you, but
yeah,
looks very similar.
I mean, a tree's more athletic than me. I mean, what are we talking about? He's Mike Clement, Ole Miss baseball hitting coach. All right, well, I will figure out a day. I will come over. I'll wear my baseball best. I will properly stretch, and I will whiff on quite literally 8 out of 10 pitches. And the other 2 are not going to be good contact, but it will make for great content. And that's really all I give a shit about is, hey, I'll play the idiot, and Clem will make me look like an idiot. So you know what? I just want to let people know, the few people that still ask me about this, I will do this. I will go over. I will get out of my house because Clem says I'm like here all the time, which is true. I will leave my house, go over there, and let this fine fellow right here beat the shit out of me. It'll be great. Thank you, Clem. Mike Clement, Ole Miss baseball hitting coach. Go get him this year, man. We'll do it again.
Thanks, buddy.